takes the older gentleman in his rocking chair who feels powerless to speak up and use his voice to say to the younger generation. Hi, everyone. Today, I am going to be listening to Barry McGuire for the first time with the song Eve of Destruction. And I understand it's a protest song written by P.F. Sloan in mid-1965. Several artists have recorded it, but apparently the most popular recording was Barry McGuire's, in which Sloan played guitar. And I also know that its controversial lyrics made it banned on some American radio stations, claiming that it was an aid to the enemy in Vietnam. So that gives me some idea of context, background, and let's see how it sounds.
The Eastern world, it is exploding, violence flaring, bullets loading. You're old enough to kill, but not for voting. You don't believe in war, but what's that gun you're toting? And even the Jordan River has bodies floating. But you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Don't you understand what I'm trying to say? Can't you feel the fears I'm feeling today? If the button is pushed, there's no running away. There'll be no one to save with the world in a grave. Take a look around you, boy. It's bound to scare you, boy. And you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
It's so nice the way it feels. At the same time, it has these little elements that are evocative, picturesque, and then there's the voice. And the way the voice is carrying this song is really compelling. I have to say, it's compelling. So, first of all, the introduction here. Boom. Boom. The space between those strikes. Boom. It's almost like, and I was sitting there thinking, okay, is this sounding like drums or is it sounding like some distant bombs dropping? It's not quite so literally mimicking the sound of bombs in the distance, but at the same time, there is that little bit of a hint that direction. And a lot of it has to do with the way it's spaced out. This internet. It makes you wait for each one. And then after the first few, it gets to the point where it's rhythmic enough, you know when to expect, and the guitar comes in and starts carrying it along, and it sounds more just instrumental setup, right? But those first few where it's just the drums, I did wonder, is that what it's portraying? And maybe it is and maybe it isn't. But it's such a kind of an attention-grabbing opening, not because it is some screaming in-your-face sound, not because it's really dramatic, but because it is, I'm going to say, unique, meaning maybe not the only example of its kind out there, but it is not terribly common, right? Usually an instrumental introduction gets the music going, gets it moving. It sets us up for something. This more makes us sit up and say, what was that? And then, about the time we are ready to make a guess at what it is, it interrupts our questioning and guessing with another one. Same thing again. Another one. The spacing, the timing of it is just right so that we don't actually get to reason out completely what it is, what it's supposed to be before it interrupts us again. At the same time, it makes us wait before we hear it again. And that is such a good way to grab your attention and make you then wait to see where is this going and what's happening with it.
Don't you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Can't you feel
You
the
hear how he's
fears
singing?
I'm feeling today?
He gives it the sound of a mature person, an older person. I'm thinking retirement age older, not just grown up, but gray-haired, okay? Talking to a young soldier, right? And even later, take a look around you, boy. It's bound to scare you, boy. This term of boy. It's not just the way it's used here and the way he sings it. It's more than just saying boy as in identifying your age. It's also a judgment on your level of maturity and awareness in the world. And his voice, he gives it that sort of little bit of gravelly ruggedness that you hear in an older person's voice. And it's, I don't know, this is my first time hearing, so I don't know if that is a standard part of what the way he sings. I don't know, but here it works incredibly well because it makes me think of, you know, as I said, kind of retirement age, someone who has lived most of the world, most of their life in the world, and, you know, they understand they're not going to live forever. Why are they scared? Why are they afraid of what they're seeing happening? This is not young people protesting and wanting to change the world. This is an older person who has seen and knows and is trying to wake up the younger generation. It's a different take on the protest song than I have heard in some of the other protest songs I've listened to along the way. And I like that.
Understand what I'm trying to say? Can't you feel the fears,
Can't you feel the fears I'm feeling
today? If the button is pushed, there's no running away. There'll be no one to save with the world in a grave.
And that's the idea, is this person is older. They're not so much worried about saving themselves. They're worried about the fate of the world even after they're gone, the fate of future generations.
Look around you, boy. It's bound to scare you, boy. And
boy, I like the way you sing. And you tell me. I like the way he jumps up there. They tell me over and over and over again. I like the way he changes and makes that leap there, because we've been riding kind of in a narrower range, and that leap is refreshing to hear in this moment.
The world in a grave. Take a look around you, boy. It's bound to scare you, boy. And you tell me over and over and over.
There's that little chorus coming in the background.
My friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
And this harmonica, sharp little interjection. Beep.
Yeah, my blood's so mad, feels like coagulating. I'm sitting here just contemplating. I can't twist the truth, it knows no regulation. Handful of senators don't pass legislation, and marches alone can't bring integration. When human respect is disintegrating, this whole crazy world is just too frustrating. And you tell me over and over
This is about so much more than just Vietnam. It's interesting to me that this was, well, I haven't made it through the song, so I don't know exactly, but claiming it was an aid to the enemy in Vietnam, this is about so much more than that. And there are references to the Cold War, and well, Vietnam was kind of part of all of that, but it's strange to me to think that this was banned because it was claimed to be an aid to the enemy in Vietnam. It might be because I'm so far removed and all I know is from reading and hearing about it in history, and maybe I just don't really get the intensity of and the whole context of how it felt back then during that era. But to me, I think it's a great protest song. I think so.
And you tell me,
and you hear the frustration in his voice.
over again,
My friend, okay? He calls you my friend now instead of
we're
boy.
on the eve of destruction.
And his harmonica. I like what this harmonica is doing.
Think of all the hate.
I can imagine the singer himself playing the guitar. But not as a singer. As this older gentleman, as this retired gentleman talking here. And maybe he's the father of one of the soldiers. Maybe even the grandfather, if they're close enough in age, generation-wise, for the boy's grandfather to still be alive. And the boy's grandfather is obviously disgusted and offended and terrified at what he's seeing going on in the world. And I can just see him sitting, maybe in the rocking chair on an old front porch, wooden floorboards. He's got his harmonica. The family's over there, or maybe the young fellow is home for on leave for a little bit, or maybe he's just enlisted and getting ready to be sent off, or maybe it's a letter that has been sent back and he's not actually speaking to the boy in person, right? To the soldier in person. Maybe he's sitting there meditating and considering and thinking about what he's just read in this letter from him. And I can see him. I can just see him. And this brings me back to the way it's being sung. I can see him sitting there just fuming, and he's old enough that there's not really much that he can get up and do. He's obviously not an important political personage. He's fed up and disgusted with what he sees happening, the senators and the politicians and all the people who could make something happen, but they're not, or it's not what he wants to see happen. And he's sitting there. He's just, I can see him. His movements are exhibiting irritation, frustration, and he picks up his harmonica to play a bit, and he just fed up and angry, but not in a way that is losing control of himself. He's directing. He's frustrated and fed up and angry, but he retains control of himself because he's a person of dignity and principle, right? And obviously, he is wishing somehow, if I could just get this younger person to understand, to see what I've seen, to feel what I feel, to know what I know, and to recognize that they need to, understand the seriousness of the situation. That's how this voice makes me feel.
Think of all the hate there is in Red China, then take a look around to Selma, Alabama. You may leave here for 4 days in space, but when you return,
Referencing
it's
all
the
these
same
events and
old
places
place. The pounding of the drums, the pride and disgrace. You can bury your dead, but don't leave a trace. Hate your next door neighbor, but don't forget to say
even the
grace.
rage in his
And
voice.
tell me over and over and over and over
I really like this piece of music as a protest song. I do. It just works so incredibly well for expressing what it does. It all comes down to the voice. I really think that's true. Okay, the accompaniment, it just chugs along. It's simple, 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 simple strumming guitar, just a little bit of thump 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 on the drums, and okay, those harmonica stabs are great, but it's the voice that does it for me. I totally understand how this version of the song, this rendition, was the one that was so popular and well known because he captured so much personality and so much emotion in, as I said, in such a dignified manner, and yet you feel it. I love that about it. It's interesting to me as I'm listening to this song and putting it in the context of the other protest songs I've listened to, and I'm thinking now, as I said, this one is so incredibly powerfully expressive and captures this frustration and fear so well, so naturally. And I'm thinking now of many of these protest songs that don't really, they are protest songs. They serve the role of protest. And as I'm listening to this, because it sounds so natural, so realistic, and puts such a clear image in my mind of the sort of personality who might be expressing these thoughts and ideas, it's interesting to me that I think of this, and I think of this, as I said, retirement age gentleman, and he's terrified, and he's upset, and he's angry, but he's powerless. And he recognizes the powerlessness of the situation. In fact, you even hear him raging about some of the people who are attempting to make a change. Where is that line here? The line about marches alone can't bring integration, referencing the marches and the protests that were happening back then, and then of course the Selma, Alabama event as well. But it's as if he's saying, what to do, because I see you're toting a gun, you're going off to war, even though you don't believe in killing, but here you are, caught up, part of the machine, and at the same time, you want to see the world change. I see young people out trying to change the world. I see people trying to change society, and here's the truth of it. Marches alone won't, this activity alone won't make the change. And yet he's sitting here. In fact, he even says, my blood's so mad it feels like coagulating. I'm sitting here just contemplating. In other words, I am powerless. I can rage and be enraged and outraged. But what can I do practically to make a difference? Because I see the weakness and the futility and the incapacity of all of the things that people are trying to do to make it better, and still it's not enough. Can you feel my fear? Do you understand why I'm afraid? I think that is something that many of us can relate to today as well, right? Because many of us, we look around and we want to participate. We want to make the world a better place. We want to put ourselves on the line and make a change in whatever way we can. And yet we feel like it's not enough. What is there to be done? And I think that the eloquence of this is what makes it such a great protest song, because these kinds of protests, well, again, they in themselves are not enough. They do carry a message, and they do make people feel the power of that message and the urgency of that message. And I have to say I've appreciated every single one of these protest songs I've listened to. And we might say, it's a futile exercise. You put a song out, it's a protest song. What's the point? But time and persistence, and I'm going to say again, all the many different people, all the many different ways. And that's the other message that I get from this. Okay, the frustration. When human respect is disintegrating, this whole crazy world is just too frustrating. And you tell me over and over and over again how you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. You don't believe, don't you see we're just right on the verge of the whole world being destroyed? You don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. And then he talks about you can bury your dead, don't leave a trace, hate your next door neighbor, but don't forget to say grace. The hypocrisy, right? But the other thing that I get from this is the message that it takes everyone. It takes the older gentleman in his rocking chair who feels powerless to speak up and use his voice to say to the younger generation. It takes the younger generation doing marches. It takes everybody from all different angles in every part of life that they find themselves. And that is the only way that it can happen. And the moment we throw up our hands and say, can't be done, is the moment of defeat. But if we recognize our own value and our own role in this, whether it's active or passive, yet we play a role in this. And so I appreciate that also. It's kind of a subtle part of the message, but it's in here because of the way it's set and because of the way it's sung. So again, that was my first time hearing something by Barry McGuire, and deeply satisfying, thought-provoking, rewarding. And I would love to hear some more of his recordings, music. So I'm sure I'll return to him in the future, but that was a great introduction, and I'll see you soon.